in the systemic circuit. So let's take a look. Actually, always. It doesn't matter whether they're systemic or pulmonary. They're going to converge. If we start up here in the neck, draining the head, we have two veins, draining deoxygenated blood and bringing them back towards the heart. This is the external jugular, and this is the internal jugular. And the way to know is that the internal jugular runs right side by side with the common carotid. Okay, so this is internal jugular, this is external jugular. In the cat, our external jugular was very obvious. In the human, the internal is very obvious. Okay, and they come together with the subclavian right here to form the brachiocephalic vein. Which brachiocephalic vein is this, right or left? It's right, and this is left. So here is the internal jugular on the left side. The external jugular is not visible on this model, but it's coming in roughly here. And here is the subclavian. So we've got subclavians with the two jugulars coming in to form the brachiocephalic veins, which then drain into this very large vein known as the what? Superior vena cava. And it's coming into the right atrium. And coming up from below is the inferior vena cava. So those are quite obvious on these models. The veins in the arms pose a bit of a problem though, because we actually have a situation of 3 upper arm veins that we need to locate. And on these models, only 2 are very obvious. So you can find this vein and this vein coming together here. Here over on this side, you've got this vein and this vein. And then do you see where these are truncated? These 2 are broken off. So let's talk a second about these veins and take a look at what we're actually seeing. First of all, I want you to find as a reference point in proper anatomical position the lateral aspect of the arm. This arm is in proper lateral anatomical position. Do you agree? So it's in proper anatomical position, which means that this outermost vein draining back to the to the subclavian here, this is the cephalic. The cephalic is on the outside. So we're going to remember them as BBC, like British Broadcast Company. Okay, BBC, and the cephalic is always on the outside. So if your arms are down like this, cephalic's out here. This arm is pronated, but it's only pronated at the elbow. So the cephalic is still out there. Do you see that? So these are our cephalic veins. Always on the outside, cephalic. You've won a third of the battle if you can remember that. This is cephalic. Now, in proper anatomical position, along the medial aspect of the forearm, is the basilic vein. And then running down the middle is the brachial. The brachial and the basilic come together to form the axial. Okay? And so you've got basilic and brachial. The brachial is truncated. Here's the brachial artery. Brachial artery and the brachial vein are going to run beside each other, and they come together to form the axillary. The axillary veins converge with the cephalic veins to form the subclavians. You with me? So it's brachial and basilic to form the axillary. It's cephalic on the outside. Cephalic and axillary create the subclavian. Any questions on that?
So it goes basilic, brachial.
Basilic on the medial.
Okay.
Brachial is always right down the midline of the brachial, okay? And cephalic. But the brachial vein here, as you can tell, is much shorter, isn't it? And so it comes in with the basilic to form the axillary, and this is a bit exaggerated on here, but they come to form the axillary. Coming up through here is the axillary. The axillary comes in with the cephalic to form the subclavian. Okay, and then what I wanted to show you is that there is what we call an anastomosis. And an anastomosis is, it doesn't matter whether it's a lymphatic vessel, set of vessels, or arteries or veins, they can all anastomose. And what that means is if an artery branches into different branches and then those branches reconvene or reconverge, that's an anastomosis. If a vein drains into a larger vein and then that larger vein drains back to one of the veins that it had previously converged with, that's an anastomosis. Anastomoses make networks. And that means that blood flow doesn't have to be all that straightforward. It can be rerouted. You can go around and bypass when you need to. So anastomoses are kind of important because damage to one tissue shouldn't mean that all blood flow is lost to that tissue or can't drain from that tissue. So we've got quite a few of these, and this is a perfect example right here. This anastomosis is an anastomosis, a convergence between the cephalic vein right here and the basilic vein. Does anybody remember what the front of the anterior aspect of the elbow is called? That's the antecubital. Antecubital, in front of the elbow, okay? So this is running right across that elbow region, the cubital. And so it's known as the median cubital vein. It's important in healthcare because this is where phlebotomists draw most of their blood, isn't it? So this is the median cubital vein right there. We have some branching into the, let's see, I guess we don't. I guess I thought I had, did I not have a Palmer? Never mind, I guess I didn't. Okay, so let's look down in the abdominal cavity. We have the abdominal aorta. I'm sorry, that's the abdominal aorta. We have the inferior vena cava, and it's draining the legs and trunk back towards the heart. And so we have the very obvious right and left renal veins. The interesting thing on these models, which is easy to show, which wasn't easy to find on your CADs, is the asymmetry in the gonadal veins. Remember, these are the gonadal arteries right here, and they're fairly symmetrical, but the gonadal veins are not. This right here is the right gonadal vein, and it drains directly into the inferior vena cava. This is the left gonadal vein, and it is draining directly into the left renal vein. So that is an asymmetry I expect you guys to be able to recognize, okay? When we look at the lower limbs down here, we have a situation, again, identical on the human, pretty much to what we've got in the arterial system. We've got the internal iliac vein, the external iliac vein converging to form the common iliac vein. This is the left common iliac vein. This is the right common iliac vein. This is the left internal iliac vein. This is the right internal iliac vein. This is the left external iliac vein. This is the right external iliac vein. And when you come down here to the femur head, what do you call this vein now? Femoral. So here's the femoral. Now, what's cool here? This is the femoral vein running down the femur, side by side with the femoral artery, and we can find those on the CADs as well. But what's really neat is this extremely long, superficial, medial vein, longest vein in the body. What's it called? Great saphenous, just the great. It's not greater, it's just great. It is the great saphenous vein right here, okay? And that is the one that sometimes they will use for bypass surgery, but you have to be careful because it's got valves in it. You got to make sure you put it the right way when you do the bypass or you block blood flow. So that is, I think that's about it on this model, what we can tell.